What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Desai Guys Football Forum. I am one of your co-hosts, Amar and Tad Desai, joined as always by my good friend, my good buddy. The other half of the Desai Guys is Tad Desai. Tad, feeling a little cold out there? He's sporting the sweatshirt for the first time.
You know what? Here's the weird thing about Dallas is we will go like 50 to 60s in the morning when I go to work, and I'll leave work around 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Shout out school systems. It's great. The schedule is awesome. I get to avoid traffic. It's great. But when I leave work, it's like 80 degrees. It's so weird. It's annoying. So, yes, now we're back down in the 50s because the sun is down. So, I'm bundling up. It's easier that way. I'm always cold. I'm like a 6-year-old, woman like that. It's just like I'm always either chilly or hot. It's just like one or the other.
So you could have just avoided that all and just been like, I'm sporting my alumni here, TCU sweatshirt, right? And then just been done with it. But
I would if I had any pride in my alumni's, football team. But good God, we suck. Don't tempt me into a fire Gary Patterson rant here. I will go. This will be a 30-minute long video.
No, we're not going to be talking about college football, specifically TCU college football. We're going to be talking about DFS
that's what
football.
People want to hear.
We're going to be talking about DFS Week 7. We're continuing on with our head-to-head challenge. Tad, you actually won pretty impressively this last week. You are 3-0. The first 2 weeks you squeaked by the narrowest of margins, but this one was a pretty convincing win. Lots of good players you had on your side. Unfortunately, I had Stephon Diggs and the Buffalo defense. They were not able to make the 40-point deficit that I had heading into that game on Monday. Stephon Diggs did pretty well. He got me about 23 points or so, but the Buffalo defense, they did not handle business. It was a very high-scoring game.
I was a little nervous. Actually, even more than a little nervous. I was nervous heading into that Monday night game. I'm like, I think they could pull this off, which I wasn't feeling comfortable going in.
Yeah, it was very possible, just it didn't happen. So, yes, you're 3-0. We'll obviously talk about our matchup heading into Week 7 towards the end of the broadcast here. But let's jump into some good players this week that you want to insert into your roster, into your lineup. The way we sort of do it, we just talk about value players here, whether it's good value, bad value, mediocre value, just sort of in between. We sort of spread it all around there. So, Tad, just who's the first player that you want to talk about, and just how do you feel about them? Good value, bad value, in between, just what are your thoughts? So, who's your first guy?
Usually I kick this off by going, I can't believe this guy's value is so low. I can't believe it here. It makes sense.
Okay.
But I still think you can find good value here, and that is Matt Ryan. I mean, we talk about Tom Brady getting old. That dude is getting up there. He's been playing a while. So honestly, he's kind of reaching, Larry Fitzgerald level. And by that, what I mean is, buddy, you have shown such good loyalty to such a crappy team for so long. You just go do your ring chase. You know what? If Aaron Rodgers leaves, you go to the Packers. I don't care if you're a prima donna about it. But anyway, we're talking about this week, not next year. For this week, he is valued at $5,900, $5,900. And like I said, I totally understand why this value is so low because the Falcons have been struggling so much. But he's been doing pretty well the past 2 weeks. He's gone for 20 points or over in three of his last 4 games. And that one game where he hasn't gone 20 over, he put up 16. I'm not going to pretend like that's good, but that's not terrible. It's a Blaine Gabbert of daily fantasy performances. Not great, not terrible. So shout out Buccaneers backup. I just found out that he's still there. I totally thought it was just Kyle Trask. But you look at who they're playing this week, and that's the Miami Dolphins. What a fall from grace. You remember last year when we were like, hey, man, Brian Flores and this defense, they are magical. Like, this is the next defensive mastermind.
It's not even last year. We were talking about it in the preseason. Like, we were just gushing about just everything Brian Flores was doing and Chris Greer and just the fact that they were a 10-win team last year and they're going to make a deep run in the playoffs. And, oh, dear Lord, it's been quite the opposite.
And you can't really even blame injuries that much. Like, their defense is not that beat up. So
it's true.
It's
true.
It is puzzling. Like, honestly, it would not shock me. I'm not going to say fired. But Brian Flores is going to be a prime hot seat candidate heading into next year if they cannot right this ship. And you ask why? They've allowed 300-plus passing yards in 3 of their last 4 games, including one to Derek Carr, which, look, Derek Carr's looking good, so that's not terrible. But, let's admit it. Derek Carr, we know what Derek Carr is at this point. Here's the one that really hurts. They allowed Trevor Lawrence to throw for 300 yards.
Yeah.
I'm not even a Miami fan, and that hurts. Like, come on, man. Like, nothing against Trevor Lawrence. Actually, it's more against the Jaguars' offense than Trevor Lawrence. I actually like the way Trevor Lawrence has been looking, but whoo, that's not great. And then you go, okay, well, they've allowed a lot of passing yards. That doesn't mean their defense is totally bad. They've also allowed 23-plus points in all but one of their games.
That's rough. That's rough.
Really, really bad. And, I mean, look, I think it just, for whatever reason, this offense just took a while to get clicking. But you look at Cordero Patterson. It was funny because I was absolutely gunning for him to be an overvalued player that I picked this week. And I kind of looked at his stats. I'm like, shit, he's actually, like, pretty good, at least fantasy-wise. His usage rate in actual football is a little low. I think they just feed him the ball a lot. But fantasy-wise, doesn't matter. He's killing it. So I was like, Cordero Patterson's looking good. Kyle Pitts looks like he's finally connecting with Matt Ryan. Calvin Ridley is finally, Jesus Christ, that took long enough for the sleeper pick of the season for me to start paying off. So I think this offense is really starting to come together. Now, I will say this Miami offense, I think it's the same. I think with Tua back in it, they're kind of starting to flow a little bit. Devontae Parker may finally be making his return. Jalen Waddle is going to finally start making it. By the way, this rookie class of receivers, my God, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith. I know they're everyone but Jamar Chase is inconsistent, but these guys are all looking good. But anyways, so I think this will turn into a kind of one of those fun games. It's like neither one of these teams are good, but this is a shootout, which means a lot of passing, which means a lot of opportunities for Matt Ryan. So, look, am I saying he's going to, put up 30 points? Absolutely not. But he'll probably land in that 15-25 range in terms of points. My guess is a little higher towards that 25. And for $5,900, that's a bargain right there. So, look, if you're looking at these quarterbacks and you go, I don't want to kind of spend – it's kind of like if you're a baseball fan, you're doing DFS there, and you're like, I kind of want to find a little bit of a sleeper in my pitcher tonight, and so I can go hard on that first baseman. Same deal. You want to go after Derrick Henry so you can't afford a great quarterback? Matt Ryan's your guy.
Yeah, I think at the price, it's a pretty good value, and I like the matchup a lot against Miami. Matt Ryan has actually been one of the more consistent parts of that offense. Unfortunately, it's just been the blocking, the receivers. Mike Davis just still hasn't broken out yet either, so that's part of the
job to Patterson at this point.
Exactly. So, but that's the thing. The Cordero Patterson has stepped up as well. So, yeah, Matt Ryan against Miami, that's a pretty good value pick at $5,900. So, yeah. Very good addition there. I'm going for another value addition here at the running back position, though. At $5,800, it's Darrell Williams versus the Tennessee Titans. So we talked about this before. With the absence of Clyde-Edwards Helaire dealing with the injury, it's going to be Darrell Williams and nobody else in that backfield. And you only have to look at their past game, but the first game without Clyde-Edwards Helaire. Darrell Williams had 21 carries in that game. Jerick McKinnon had 3. That clearly tells you who's the leader in this backfield as far as leading this rushing game. Now, here's the little bit of a caveat on Darrell Williams. He's not your typical runner. He's not a bulldozer. He's not going to get you a lot of yards. I mean, in that game, he averaged 2.95 yards per carry. He had 21 carries for about 65, 69 yards. I can't remember the exact total, but
62.
There you go, 62. It wasn't that great, clearly. But here's the big thing that's great for Darrell Williams if you're going to put him in your roster or if you own him in your fantasy lineup. He gets touches in the red zone. In 15 plays in the red zone that the Kansas City Chiefs had against Washington, he got 6 touches out of those 15. That's nearly 50%. Plus, he scored on 2 of them. So, yes, he's very touchdown dependent, but the fact that if he's getting all those touches in the red zone, that's just more opportunity for him to score. So, yes, maybe he's not going to get you good value as far as yardage is concerned, but if he can hit the end zone once or twice, you're instantly going to get good value there. So, I will say it is a little bit of a risky play. Plus, they're playing the Titans, who are more susceptible to the pass attack, and secret here, the Chiefs' passing offense, pretty good. So maybe they'll pass it more here, but still, once they get close to the...
Sure.
I'm pretty sure on that one. Don't tell the world on that one, though. So the Chiefs obviously have a pretty good passing offense, but the big thing is just once they get closer there, I think we'll see them sort of hand it off to Darrell Williams. He scored off of 2 yards and I believe 3 yards. So, I mean, once they get close enough, you get a big chunk play to Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce or somebody else, and they get stopped right before the end zone. they'll hand it off to Darrell Williams. He'll punch it in. You'll get your touchdown there. So, yes, like I said, it is a very touchdown-dependent play. But for $5,800, I think you get a pretty good value for him. And like I said, it's not a bad lottery ticket option for you in DFS this week. So, I like Darrell Williams.
I like the pick, too. I do wonder if one of the reasons is because I think actually logistically the Chiefs offense is just designed to spread the field so much that when they're in a shorter version of the field, they're like, let's just run it. Like, what do you mean we can't send Tyreek Hill 50 yards? Like, we can throw it to him in the tunnel.
So then you see the runs with Darrell Williams, which is going to be beneficial. You also see those, like, shovel passes where they got Travis Kelce coming off the motion, just flip it to him. So that's something that they do as well. But, yeah, you are right. With the very spread it out, sort of air it out type of offense that they run there, once they get closer to the end zone, they're very limited with their play call. So they get a little creative this way, but it's essentially they're doing run play. So this is like the handoff or the jet sweep where they hand it off that way, but still a passing touchdown. I don't understand that logic there, but that's pretty much what they do. But still, like I said, still beneficial for Darrell Williams.
Well, but I'm glad you mentioned the crazy shuffle passes and stuff because Patrick Mahomes had, I'm not exaggerating, one of the dumbest football plays I've ever seen this past week against the Washington football team is when he was like going down with a sack and he just like freaking tried to chuck it up in the air and it basically went like straight up. I'm not like talking like straight.
I remember this play. He mishandled the snap. He had to roll back because the pressure was getting to him. He was about to be sacked, and exactly like I said, he just threw a lame duck out there, easily picked off by the Washington defender. It was a turnover.
So I wonder if that's part of it is like because here's a crazy stat. Patrick Mahomes has thrown an interception, at least one interception, in each of his last 15 games.
Yes.
This dude, I know the gunslinger thing is cool. It looks cool. We love to watch it. I'll admit, like, it's really cool and it works. But clearly, a lot of times it's not working. So I'm wondering if this is kind of the way of the Chiefs kind of handcuffing him a bit.
And definitely this is the topic I want to bring up on later side because I think we go down this rabbit hole too much. But it's like Patrick Mahomes has been so good for so long that you're able to overlook some of these things that made him sort of a bad quarterback, that gunslinger mentality, sort of to trying to force a play when it's not there. But now that the Chiefs have been sort of struggling and he has not been looking like the invincible Patrick Mahomes that we've seen, these sort of mistakes that he's doing sort of become that much more like, why are you doing this? But like I said, I think that's a topic for a different day. We could totally get into that. But let's continue with some of our value players here, Tad. So who's the next value player that you have, whether it's good, bad, or in between?
Let's go bad. You know what?
Okay.
We went there. Let's go opposite. Let's go bad. I get why, but like, don't do this. Is Darren Waller is valued at $6,700.
Wow.
That is the second most expensive tight end.
Oy.
Why? He is the fourth best performing tight end. I know you're going to go, well, okay, you overpaid a little bit. You only dropped 2 spots. The problem is, and like we say in every single episode, this tight end class this year sucks. So you have that 1, 2, 50 feet of crap, and that, everyone else. And obviously it's not that bad. I'm just quoting one of my favorite movies. Before all you Raiders fans come after me. I'm sure that'll happen anyway. By the way, the ticker, my handle's the first one, so go after them. Anyway, Darren Waller, look, he's not performing badly, right? But he's also not performing great. He's only put up 11 points or more once the entire season. Yet you're going to pay to roster him like a guy who puts up 15-plus points consistently. Because, look, if I'm paying $6,700, dude, you better be giving me at least 13 points. And it better be a sure thing. And Darren Waller is not a sure thing. So, honestly, I know a lot of this is going to seem like blasphemy. I 100% believe this. I am looking at guys who are cheaper, and like TJ Hawkinson. And ignore the questionable tag. It's the same injury that was bugging him last week. He played. So, the questionable tag, I know he didn't practice on Wednesday, but that was probably just, cautionary, preliminary, just, give him a rest day. So, I think Hawkinson's going to play. If he does, I like him better. Kyle Pitts, like I said, I really think Kyle Pitts is going to start blowing up here. Zach Ertz. I like the promise of Zach Ertz more than I like Darren Waller right now. I think that's worth the risk to save the money. Here's where I get a little hot take-ish. Mike Kaseki and Hunter Henry. I might like both of those guys. Like I consider Hunter Henry, Mike Kaseki, and Darren Waller all on the same level because I could see them all getting you those like 8 to 10 point ranges. Bottom line is, look, you should not be breaking the bank for a position player unless you are absolutely certain that he is going to perform well for you. Not like, oh, okay, he did all right. That was solid. Because I think that's where Darren Waller is living right now. Like, okay, solid outing. I'll pay $4,000, maybe $5,000 for that. I'm not paying nearly $7,000 for that. So Darren Waller, way overvalued in my opinion.
And we talked about this before. It's like it hurts the rest of your build for your roster then if you're spending that much money for a player because you're really banking on that player hitting it. Because it's like Derrick Henry has been $9,000 for the past couple of weeks. I think he up to $9,200 now for this week. But you look at the performance that he had on Monday Night Football, it's like, okay, now you understand why this guy is $9,000 because he is absolutely proving that it's like, I am the best fantasy running back, I should say, arguably possibly best fantasy player as well. But just, yeah, it's worth it to pay the $9,000 and sort of sacrifice maybe with the other positions, maybe take a little bit more risk with some of those other positions because he's performing that. With Darren Waller, it's just a little bit too inconsistent. Unfortunately, the tight end position, like you said, Tad, is just, there's been some good performances, but Mark Andrews has also been inconsistent. Travis Kelce, I think, is the only tight end year in and year out that is consistent game in and game out. Otherwise, like George Kittle is dealing with injury. He's on IR. Mark Andrews, I think, finally started to break out, so he's looking good. Darren Waller, like you said, had started the season pretty good, but now he's slowing down. TJ Hawkinson had a little bit of a break in between. It's like, too inconsistent. We can't rely on one guy. It's like Travis Kelce, and then everybody else is just too inconsistent. So for $6,700, I didn't even realize it was that much. That's ridiculous.
It was funny because I was actually struggling to find my overvalued player. Because shout out to DraftKings, they did a great job.
This week they did. Yeah, it was toufher. It was tougher.
I was like, man, I don't know who to pick because after a while I was like, I may take a Murs overvalued player, but and then as soon as I went to tight ends and I saw that, I was like, oh, 100%.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Well, he's just the victim of young guys finally blooming. Hunter Renfrow stealing his targets, and Ruggs is stealing his Ruggs and Josh Jacobs, and even freaking Kenny Drake now.
Yeah,
all of a sudden like a receiving back. Like it's just there are so many weapons. It's a great problem to have if you're a Raiders fan. Terrible problem to have if you have Darren Waller on your fantasy team because there are just too many weapons. He's not getting the same love he was getting last year.
Exactly. So, I'm going to go with the overvalued player here as well, and that's Ryan Tannehill versus the Kansas City Chiefs for $6,400. Now, you think about that price, and you're like, that's not that bad. I mean, Ryan Tannehill's about that price, but mine is more about just the fact that he has not been performing very well this season, because it's like, look at I think, Tannehill was a bit of a benefactor from Arthur Smith's system because so far he has not been getting it done this year. So think about this, Tad. Through 6 games last season, Ryan Tannehill posted the following stat line: 1,590 yards, 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a completion percentage of 68.47. Through 6 games this year now, he has 1,467 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and a 63.37% completion percentage. So it's just a massive drop as far as just
return to the Miami Dolphins, Tannehill.
Exactly. That's why it's like you may even start to think, I know it's only 6 weeks still, but I think 6 weeks is a good sample size still where it's like, maybe last year was a fluke. That just everything sort of came into a perfect sort of, twister or storm or whatever, and just he was able to leverage that. And Derrick Henry played well, and he was able to go to A.J. Brown and Corey Davis and all these guys. It just, he looked a lot better, but now it's like without Arthur Smith, it just for some reason, things are just not clicking there. And yes, I do know A.J. Brown missed a game. He only missed 1 game out of the 6 games. Julio Jones missed a couple games as well, but it's like, I still think, he might have learned enough from last year that he could have taken that into this year and still been a very productive quarterback. Because I'm pretty sure I was one of them. When you're doing your fantasy draft, this is regular fantasy draft, obviously, you were not going very high on quarterback. You were drafting other position. You're like, I could get Ryan Tannehill later, and he'll totally bail me out. Yeah, see, you're a victim as well, and clearly, unfortunately...
Dropped him after week 2.
I did the same thing, and I picked up Joe Burrow, who's been an absolute fantasy boon for me. But just, it's unfortunate that he just hasn't been able to live up to those expectations now. He is playing the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a very tempting matchup. The Kansas City Chiefs are one of the league's worst defenses. I mean, it's just still hard for me to sort of pay that price against the Kansas City Chiefs as well. Because, like I said, I haven't seen it through 6 weeks. It's just hard for me to think that, finally he'll break out against this defense, because the Chiefs obviously want to keep winning. They want to keep pace in that division, obviously. Like I said, I dropped at Ryan Tannehill in my regular fantasy league. I'm not touching him with a 10-foot pole in DFS leagues either.
So a couple things. First off, I will actually go against you on one thing you said. I don't think it was just last year that was a fluke. I actually attribute his entire success to Arthur Smith. Because, we were talking about this on the podcast on the offseason. I'm going to say we, even though this was mostly me, but I need a bit of a shield here, buddy. So, if you look at his stats since he became the Titans starter, it was something along the lines of like 70 total touchdowns. Total, before people start yelling at me, it's like, you only have 50 passing touchdowns. I'm including the rushing touchdowns. He had 70 total 70 total touchdowns compared to like 12 interceptions or something. That was like Hall of Fame worthy numbers. If he could keep that up his entire career, that's the only explanation I get. Especially since Derrick Henry's still killing it. So this is still a good offensive line, still a good offense. The only explanation I can and he has better receiving core than he did last year. So the only explanation I can come up with is that Arthur Smith is gone. So if I'm a Falcons fan, I'm psyched. Because that means, okay, great. Once we find whoever's going to be our quarterback of the future, unless it's Spencer Rattler, we're going to be fine. So that's the one thing. So it wasn't just one fluke this year. But it's funny. I love the way you started off by introducing Tannehill because it was the exact same thing. I saw you had Tannehill, and I actually give our listeners a little inside peek. We shared who our picks were a couple hours ago, and I go, okay, so your next player that Amar's going to name, he's your overvalued player, right? And Amar goes, no, it's Tannehill. And at first I was, whoa, no, all right, I'm going to fight him. I'm going to go, Tannehill's my undervalued player. So I click on Tannehill, I was like, oh, no, I am not. Because Tannehill, back-to-back weeks, scored 13 points total. And in case you're just going, well, yeah, he didn't have any of his wide receivers, because that was going to be my defense. A.J. Brown is sick, and we know what that could potentially mean. So I don't have really any faith in A.J. Brown happening. And stop me if you heard this one before. Julio Jones is questionable with a hamstring injury.
Yeah.
Life, death, taxes, Julio Jones hamstring injury. So who knows what the hell is going to happen with these receivers. I'm with you, buddy. It's just this whole Titans offense, other than Derrick Henry, just stay away from them. And if you have Derrick Henry, trade him away for a boatload of players, get yelled at by your friends, and eventually win the league.
And then also on that note, exactly like I said, AJ Brown is $6,300 this week, and Julio Jones $6,100 a week. I would not pay for either of those guys.
Here's my personal. I almost picked this as a joke. Christian McCaffrey is still $8,500.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Like, come on, Jack. I know you're just like, no one's gonna do it, but like, come on, some poor sucker's not gonna be paying attention and hit that.
Seriously. All right, Tad, let's get into one more player each here. Who's your last guy that you either like for value, don't like for value, or think is okay?
I'm going to go like a little undervalued. I think it's
okay.
It's decent value. It's Darrell Henderson. So he's valued at $6,600. He's the seventh most expensive running back, which is frankly where he should be, but I was still surprised it was low enough. I thought he'd be closer to 7,000. So 6,600 I think is pretty good value for him because look, is he going to, absolutely blow you away? Maybe, probably not. But here's the thing. He's safe, okay? Amar, guess how many games so far this season he scored less than 15 points?
I want to say probably one because he started the season kind of slow, but then he started to pick it up. So I'm going to say one.
You ready?
0. Okay.
He scored at least 15 points, at least with DraftKings, every single game this season. So he is nothing if not consistent. And look, if I'm getting 15 points on my running back, I'm happy. I'm walking away going, that was a good start. So for $6,600, rather than, like we talked about, Derrick Henry is obviously going to go off for 30 points. But if you don't want to pay $9,000 for that and kind of have a more even keel across the board solid roster, hard to find a better player to kind of plug in the middle there than Darrell Henderson. And it's also worth noting that they're playing the Detroit Lions. They had the worst run defense in the league. Simple as that. You got a consistent running back on a really good and thriving offense against one of the worst run defenses in the league. I rest my case.
Yeah, I don't think you need to add much more than that. Yeah, I think I like the consistency with Darrell Henderson. I think anybody in that Rams offense, if you put him in your DFS roster this week, I think you're probably going to be good. Matthew Stafford for his second straight week, I wouldn't mind that. I think he's around 7,100, but in a revenge game, you got to like those matchups as well.
I didn't even think about that. Wow.
So that's a pretty good matchup as well. So,
yes,
but like I said,
I have Stafford in my other league. Oh, it's so good.
So yeah, anybody on the Rams offense play the Lions, I think that should be a good matchup. So speaking of revenge games, though, I'm going to go into my last guy here. Good value, I think. DeAndre Hopkins versus the Houston Texans. It's $7,700. That seems a little bit pricey, but I think you have to throw in this fact. So this is the first time that DeAndre Hopkins is playing his former team. Yes, there's no Bill O'Brien there, but I still think revenge is going to be sweet for DeAndre Hopkins.
It's well publicized. He was pissed.
Exactly. I mean, he's currently tied for second in the NFL for the most receiving touchdowns, and honestly, it would not be outside the norm for him to score multiple times against Houston. So, yes, we've talked about this multiple times. Arizona's finally spreading the ball out to lots of different people. AJ Green, Christian Kirk, Chase Edmonds, James Conner. A lot of people are getting involved in this offense that DeAndre Hopkins doesn't need to be overfed consistently every single game like he used to be. But I still think that I like him crossing the 100-yard mark in this game. He has not done it yet this season. I don't know if you know that, Tad, but he has not done that yet.
Trust me, he's on my team in my other league. I know.
So I think he'll be able to break that streak finally for this season. He'll be able to score multiple times because you also have to think that Arizona just likes throwing the ball. They're 9th in the league as far as most passing yards, and they're tied for 7th as far as most passing touchdowns. So I do know that they will spread the ball. I think everybody's going to get some love. Arizona's going to be able to blow out Houston, but I think DeAndre Hopkins may get more of the targets in this game, particularly because they kind of want to sort of accentuate the fact that it's like, you traded this guy away. He is absolutely doing damage against you. So, I mean, I know he's the 4th most expensive receiver in DFS this week, but I think the price is going to be worth it. I think he's absolutely going to meet the value there, and he's totally going to pay off for your roster if you put him in.
I do like your justification for paying for him, because I didn't think about the revenge game aspect, because Cliff Kingsbury totally seems like the kind of coach that would just love that. Like, hey, man, you want to stick it to him? Let's stick it to him. Some coaches coaches like Belichick are like, I don't care. Like, no, I don't give a shit. Like, do you see 1 ounce of like give a shit on my face? But with that said, it's kind of the new version of the Saints offense of the 2010s of like, man, there's always that chance this guy's just not going to go off, and they're just going to focus on freaking Christian Kirk, who will go off for 3 touchdowns, or AJ Green all of a sudden has 4 touchdowns out of nowhere. So you always want run that risk a bit. So like a top 5 player with that healthy risk there, it's a little risky, but it's D-Hop. I mean, the dude's going to get his receptions in there. He's going to probably get his yards. So sure, I like it. It's definitely the riskiest one of your 3 players. But if you're going to take the risk, that's probably the best player to do it with. And keep in mind, just to shout back to one of my players, freaking Darren Waller is only $1,000 cheaper than him. That's ridiculous.
Exactly. But yeah, so I still like the value. Like I said, I think he'll be able to sort of go over 100 yards. If he doesn't go over 100 yards, I still think he'll score multiple times. So yeah, that's why I like the value there. But you're very right. It could go the opposite direction. He could only score once, and a lot of love will go to somebody else. But yeah, I think in the revenge game, I think, like you said, Cliff Kingsbury would be like, all right, let's go to him more often. Just stick it to the Texans here. So those are our...
Poor Texans. We are
exactly.
Actually, I'm not sorry. I love it. I freaking love it. I hope the Jags and Texans suck forever.
Of course you do. All right, so those are our DFS value plays this week. We got some good, we got some bad, we got some in between there, but just, yeah, let us know what you think. You know, if you need some help building your DFS roster, hit us up at all of our Twitter accounts listed down below at the ticker there. You got my handle, I'm Desai23. You got Tad's at Tad Desai 94. You got the show handle, the Desai Guys. We're here to help you out with DFS stuff, non-DFS stuff, just general fantasy stuff. Like I said, we brought this up many times. The trade deadline's coming up pretty soon. If you need help with trades, we're here to help you out, analyze those trades, let you figure out how to improve your roster as we head into the postseason. We're getting closer than you think. And as always, you know, help you setting your lineup as we head into week 7. We said this many times already. Week 7 has the most teams on a bye week this week, so you're going to have to make some adjustments. Hit us up. We're here to help you out, to give you the best advice that we can. And to everybody that's tuning into the broadcast, who tunes into the podcast, who subscribes, follows us on Twitter, anything and everything in between, can't thank you enough, guys. Appreciate it.
We also give great life advice, so hit us up there as well.
There you go.